She was beaten and left to die, until a lone cowboy changed her fate. An emotional Western love story. Left beneath the autumn sky, the wind moved softly through the tall grass, whispering across the open land like a quiet warning. Autumn had painted the Montana territory in gold and amber, but beneath its beauty lay a harshness that showed no mercy. Caleb Hart rode slowly along the narrow trail, his horse Dusty stepping carefully over roots and stones. Caleb was not a man who rushed. Years of surviving alone had taught him that patience kept a man alive longer than speed ever could. He was returning from the trading post, supplies tied behind his saddle, when Dusty suddenly stopped. "Easy, boy," Caleb murmured, tightening the reins. Dusty's ears twitched, his body stiff. Then Caleb saw her. She lay beneath a cottonwood tree, half hidden by fallen leaves. At first, Caleb thought she was already dead. Her dress was torn, stained dark with dried blood and dirt. One shoe was missing. Her face, bruised, pale, almost unrecognizable. Caleb slid off his horse and approached cautiously. Out here, danger didn't always announce itself. But as he knelt beside her, he saw her chest rise, just barely. She was alive. Damn it, he muttered under his breath. He touched her wrist. Her pulse was weak, fluttering like it might disappear at any moment. Whoever had done this had meant to kill her. Caleb scanned the area, hand resting on his gun. No tracks nearby except his own and Dusty's. Whoever left her here was long gone. He hesitated. Helping her would mean trouble. Questions. Maybe enemies. Maybe the law. And Caleb Hart had spent years keeping his distance from all of it. But then she made a sound, a faint, broken breath that barely escaped her lips. That decided it. Caleb carefully lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than she should have been, like hunger had already taken its toll long before the beating had. "Hang on," he said quietly. "You're not dying today." A cabin at the edge of nowhere. Caleb's cabin sat far from town, tucked into the trees near a slow-moving river. It wasn't much, just one room, a small stove, and a table he'd built with his own hands, but it had kept him alive through winters that killed weaker men. He laid her gently on his bed, tearing clean cloth to press against her wounds. Her face was swollen, a deep purple bruise shadowing one eye. Her lip was split, dried blood crusted along her chin. He cleaned her as best he could, jaw tight with anger he didn't often allow himself to feel. No woman deserved this. No one did. As he worked, she stirred. "Please," she whispered, voice barely a sound. Caleb froze. "You're safe," he said softly. "No one's here but me." Her eyelids fluttered, then closed again. He stayed up through the night, feeding the fire, checking her breathing, changing bandages. Outside, wolves howled in the distance, but inside the cabin, silence held tight. By morning, she still hadn't woken. A name spoken like a secret. It was nearly noon when she finally opened her eyes. She stared at the ceiling, confusion clouding her gaze. Panic flickered for just a moment, then pain followed, sharp enough to steal her breath. "Easy," Caleb said, sitting beside her. "You're hurt bad. Don't move." Her eyes shifted to him. Fear crossed her face. Who are you?" "Name's Caleb. I found you by the trail." She swallowed. "Am I alive?" He nodded. "Barely. But you will be." Tears filled her eyes without warning. "My name is Anna," she said quietly, as if saying it too loudly might break something. "Anna," Caleb repeated. She turned her head away. "They thought I was dead." Caleb didn't ask who they were. "Not yet. Rest," he said. "We'll talk later." But as he stood to leave her be, her hand reached out and grabbed his sleeve. "Don't leave me," she whispered. Something in her voice, a fear too deep to ignore, hit him harder than any bullet ever had. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. And for the first time in years, Caleb Hart realized he meant it. Shadows of the past. That night, Anna cried in her sleep. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet sobs that broke through the darkness like cracked glass. Caleb sat by the fire, fists clenched, listening. He didn't know her story yet, but he knew pain. He knew what it meant to be left behind, to survive when someone else wanted you erased. Outside, the wind howled again, but inside the cabin, something had changed. Fate had stepped in, and neither of them would ever be the same again. The wounds that speak. Anna woke before dawn. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The scent of wood smoke hung in the air, warm and unfamiliar. A soft orange glow flickered across the rough wooden walls. Then the pain came rushing back. She gasped, clutching the blanket, her body stiffening as memories slammed into her like a stampede. Hands. Shouting. The cold ground. The blow that took her breath away. Easy, a low voice said. She turned her head and saw Caleb sitting nearby, sharpening a knife slowly, carefully. He looked up at the sound of her breathing, his movements stopping at once. "You're awake," he said. Her heart raced. Instinct told her to pull away, but she was too weak to move. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice trembling. "My cabin. You collapsed near the North Trail. Been out almost 2 days." Her eyes widened. 2 days? You lost a lot of blood," he replied. "Fever came and went. You fought hard." She swallowed. "I didn't mean to trouble you." Caleb frowned. "You didn't." Silence settled between them, thick and uneasy. Anna stared at the ceiling again, blinking back tears. "Do you have family?" Caleb asked gently. She shook her head. "Not anymore." He didn't push. Instead, he stood, poured water into a tin cup, and helped her drink. His hands were steady, careful, nothing like the ones from her memory. "Thank you," she whispered. "For saving your life. For not asking questions," she said. That earned a small nod. Caleb understood silence better than most men understood words. The truth bleeds out. By midday, Anna was sitting up, supported by pillows. The color had returned to her face, though bruises still told a brutal story. Caleb cooked beans and salted meat, the simple meal filling the cabin with warmth. "You'll need strength," he said. "Healing takes more than bandages." She ate slowly. When she finished, she stared into her empty bowl for a long time. "They were my husband's brothers," she said suddenly. Caleb looked up. "They said I brought shame to the family," she continued, her voice flat, distant. "Because I tried to leave." He said nothing, but something dark moved behind his eyes. "My husband died last winter," she went on. "Fever. After that, they decided I belonged to them. That I owed them." Her hands shook as she clenched them together. "I ran," she whispered. "I thought if I reached the river road, I could disappear." Caleb's jaw tightened. "They caught me before I could." Silence fell heavy again. Caleb stood slowly, walked to the window, and stared out at the trees. When he spoke, his voice was low and controlled. "They won't touch you again." Anna looked at him. "You don't know them." "I don't need to," he replied. "Men who do that don't stop." She hugged her knees. "They'll come looking. Then they'll find me," Caleb said. For the first time since she woke up, Anna felt something shift inside her. Safety. Days of healing. Time passed quietly. Caleb changed her bandages, brewed bitter herbs from the hills, and kept the fire burning. He spoke little, but his presence filled the space like a wall between her and the world. Anna began to notice small things. How he always made sure she ate first. How he slept in a chair instead of the bed, giving her space. How his eyes softened whenever she winced in pain. One afternoon, she asked, "Why do you live out here alone?" He hesitated. "Town holds too many ghosts," he said finally. She didn't ask more. That night, a storm rolled in. Thunder cracked the sky, loud enough to make the cabin shake. Anna woke screaming. Caleb was at her side in an instant. "You're safe," he said, gripping her shoulders gently. "You're safe." She sobbed against his chest, shaking like a frightened child. He didn't pull away. For the first time since she was beaten, she let herself feel danger in the distance. The next morning, Caleb noticed tracks near the river. Fresh boot prints, too many to ignore. He studied them, his expression hardening. They were close. Inside the cabin, Anna watched him through the window, dread curling in her stomach. "They found me," she whispered. Caleb loaded his rifle calmly. "No," he said, "they found the wrong place. Where trust begins." The tracks disappeared by noon. Caleb followed them far enough to know one thing: whoever had come close to the cabin had turned back. Whether it was fear or caution, he didn't know. But the danger hadn't passed. It had only learned where to wait. When he returned, Anna was sitting on the porch wrapped in a blanket, her face pale but calmer than before. She looked up as he approached, searching his expression for answers. "They were here, weren't they?" she asked. "Close enough to make me uncomfortable," Caleb replied honestly. Her shoulders sagged. "I should leave. I don't want to bring trouble to you." He stopped in front of her. "You can barely stand." "That doesn't matter." "It does to me," he said. Anna looked at him then, really looked. At the lines in his face, the quiet strength in his posture, the way his eyes held no judgment, only resolve. "You don't owe me anything," she said softly. Caleb knelt so they were eye level. "I know." That frightened her more than anger ever could. A new kind of silence. As the days passed, Anna grew stronger. She helped where she could, folding clothes, sweeping the cabin, tending a small pot of herbs outside. Caleb watched her carefully, always close enough to help, never close enough to make her feel trapped. At night, they sat by the fire. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't, but the silence between them was no longer heavy. It was gentle, safe. One evening, Anna asked, "Did you ever have a family?" Caleb stared into the flames. "I had a brother," he said. "Younger. Reckless." "What happened?" "Wrong place. Wrong men." She nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." "So am I," he replied. Their pain sat between them, not as a wall, but as a bridge. The first smile. It happened without warning. Anna laughed. They were outside, Caleb trying, and failing, to fix a broken fence post. He cursed under his breath, the post collapsing again. She laughed, surprised by the sound herself. Caleb turned, startled. "What?" he asked. She covered her mouth. "Sorry. You look human when you're annoyed." He raised an eyebrow. "I'll remember that." A small smile tugged at his lips. It was the first time she'd seen him smile. Something warm settled in her chest. Nightmares and promises. That night, the nightmares returned. She thrashed, breath hitching, terror wrapping around her like chains. "Don't. Please," she cried. Caleb woke instantly. "Anna," he said gently, taking her hand. "Wake up." Her eyes flew open, wild with fear. "They're coming back," she whispered. Caleb didn't hesitate. He sat on the edge of the bed, still holding her hand. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "I won't let anyone hurt you. Not now. Not ever." She stared at him, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. "You promise?" He squeezed her hand. "I promise." She leaned forward before she could stop herself, resting her forehead against his chest. Caleb stiffened for a moment, then relaxed, wrapping one arm around her shoulders. They stayed that way until the sun began to rise. When fear turns to something else. By morning, something had changed. Anna felt it in the way Caleb looked at her, not like someone fragile, but like someone worth protecting. And Caleb felt it too. The way her presence softened the cabin. The way her strength surprised him. The way the thought of losing her made his chest ache. Danger still waited beyond the trees. But inside that small cabin, trust had taken root. And trust, Caleb knew, was the most dangerous thing of all. When the past comes riding in, the sound reached the cabin before the riders did. Hooves. Distant at first, then closer. Caleb froze mid-motion, his hand tightening around the coffee cup. He didn't need to look outside to know, this wasn't a traveler. It wasn't a hunter. It was trouble. Anna felt it too. Her smile faded, fear flashing across her face. They found me, she whispered. Caleb set the cup down slowly. Go to the back room. Stay quiet. Her eyes filled with panic. Caleb, now, he said firmly, but gently. She obeyed. Caleb stepped onto the porch as three men rode into the clearing. Their horses were hard used, their faces rough. One of them smiled like a man who enjoyed causing pain. Well, I'll be damned, the tallest one said. Looks like we followed the trail right. Caleb didn't move his hand from his gun. You're trespassing, he said calmly. The man laughed. We're looking for a woman. Thin, dark hair, mean temper. Caleb's eyes stayed cold. Haven't seen her. Another man spat into the dirt. Liar. The leader's gaze flicked toward the cabin. She owes us. And we always collect. Caleb stepped forward. She's not yours. That was when the leader smiled wider. So she is here. A truth spoken aloud. Anna watched through a crack in the wall, her heart pounding. She recognized them instantly. Ethan Cole, her husband's eldest brother. The man who had ordered her beating. Caleb's voice was steady. You leave now, or you won't leave at all. Ethan chuckled. You don't know who you're dealing with. Caleb did. Men like Ethan existed everywhere, men who believed power meant ownership. You lay a hand on her again, Caleb said quietly, and I'll bury you in this ground. Silence fell. Ethan's smile vanished. You already made your choice, cowboy. He raised his hand. The crack of a rifle shattered the air. Blood and fire. Caleb fired first. One of the men fell from his horse, screaming. The others scrambled, bullets tearing through the trees, splintering wood. Inside, Anna covered her ears, tears streaming down her face. Caleb moved like he'd been born to this, ducking, firing, reloading with deadly calm. But there were three of them. A bullet grazed his arm. Pain burned, but he didn't slow. Ethan cursed, dragging his wounded brother away. This isn't over, he shouted. She belongs to us. Caleb fired once more, close enough to send dirt flying at Ethan's feet. Not anymore. The riders fled, leaving silence and smoke behind. Aftermath. Caleb leaned heavily against the porch rail, blood seeping through his sleeve. Anna ran to him, ignoring the pain in her own body. You're hurt, she cried. It's nothing, he said, though his face was pale. She pressed her hands to his arm, shaking. You could have died. He looked at her then, really looked. So could you, he said. She broke. Tears fell freely as she rested her head against his chest. I never thought anyone would fight for me, she whispered. Caleb lifted her chin, gently. You're worth fighting for. For a moment, the world faded. Their lips nearly met, nearly, but fear still stood between them. A hard decision. That night, Caleb cleaned his wound as Anna sat nearby, silent. They'll come back, she said. With more men. Caleb nodded. Which means we can't stay. Her heart sank. Where will we go? He met her eyes. Somewhere they can't touch you. She reached for his hand. I don't care where. Just don't leave me. He squeezed her fingers. I won't. But in his mind, Caleb knew the truth. The final fight was coming. Where love is no longer silent. They left before sunrise. The world was still wrapped in gray when Caleb loaded the horses. Anna stood nearby, wrapped in her shawl, watching the cabin that had become her first safe place in months. "I never even got to say goodbye," she whispered. Caleb tied the last strap. "Places like this aren't meant to be remembered. They're meant to keep you alive." She nodded, though her chest ached. They rode hard, following narrow trails only trappers and outlaws knew. The mountains rose ahead of them, dark and unforgiving. Snow still clung to the higher peaks. By noon, Anna's strength began to fade. Caleb noticed immediately. "We'll rest," he said. "If we stop, they'll catch us." "They won't," he said firmly. "I won't let you collapse again." He helped her down, guiding her to a small cave hidden behind brush. He built a fire while she rested, her breathing shallow. "You're pushing yourself," he said. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them." Caleb crouched in front of her. "Look at me." She did. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." Her eyes filled with tears. The confession. That night, the cold crept in deep. Anna shivered despite the fire. Caleb removed his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. She hesitated only a moment before leaning into him. "Caleb," she said quietly. "Yes. If you hadn't found me that day, I'd be dead." He swallowed. "I know." She took a shaky breath. "You saved more than my life." He didn't speak. "You gave me back hope," she continued. "And that scares me." "Why?" "Because I don't want to lose it again." Caleb stared into the fire. "I've lost everyone I ever cared about," he said. "That's why I stayed alone. Loving someone means giving fate something to take away." She placed her hand over his. "Maybe," she said softly. "But maybe it also means giving yourself a reason to survive." He turned to her. Their faces were inches apart. This time, he didn't pull away. Their kiss was slow, hesitant, full of fear and longing. When they parted, Anna rested her forehead against his. "I love you," she whispered. Caleb closed his eyes. "I don't know how to live without you now," he admitted. Hunted. The sound of distant shouting shattered the moment. Horses. Too close. Caleb cursed under his breath. "They tracked us." Fear flashed across Anna's face, but she didn't freeze this time. "What do we do?" Caleb stood, loading his rifle. "We end this." "No," she said quickly. "They'll kill you." He cupped her face. "If I run forever, they'll never stop. If I stand, it ends." Tears spilled over. "I can't lose you," she cried. He kissed her once more, fierce and final. "You won't." A plan born of fire. They rode toward the old mining pass, a narrow stretch of land where numbers meant nothing and courage meant everything. Caleb knew the place well. It would be their last stand. Anna rode beside him, fear still in her heart, but strength there too. Whatever happened next, she was no longer running. The last stand at Devil's Pass. Devil's Pass earned its name honestly. Steep rock walls closed in from both sides, the trail narrowing until only one rider could pass at a time. Wind screamed through the canyon like a warning meant to turn men back. Caleb stopped his horse at the entrance. "This is as far as we go together," he said. Anna's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" He dismounted, helping her down. "I need you to hide. There's a ledge behind those rocks. No matter what you hear, don't come out." Her hands trembled as she gripped his coat. "I won't leave you." He rested his forehead against hers. "Trust me. That's how we survive." Reluctantly, she nodded. Caleb guided her to the hidden ledge, then returned to the trail, rifle ready, breath steady. Moments later, the riders appeared. For this time, Ethan Cole rode at the front, his face twisted with hatred. "Well," Ethan called out, "looks like you finally stopped running." Caleb stood alone in the open. "I'm not running," he replied. "I'm waiting." "Truth in the open," Ethan laughed. "You think you can protect her? She belongs to us." "No," Caleb said, voice like steel. She never belonged to anyone. Ethan's eyes darkened. She was my brother's wife. She was his prisoner, Caleb shot back. That struck something. Ethan drew his gun. Hand her over. Caleb didn't move. Over my dead body. The canyon went silent. Then the guns came out. Fire and blood. The first shot echoed like thunder. Caleb moved fast, using the rocks for cover, firing with deadly precision. One man fell, another screamed as his horse bolted. Ethan cursed, firing wildly. A bullet struck Caleb's shoulder. Pain exploded, but he stayed upright. From her hiding place, Anna covered her mouth, tears streaming silently. She wanted to run to him, but she remembered his words. Trust me. Caleb took a deep breath, steadying his aim. Another shot. Another man fell. Only Ethan remained. Face to face. Ethan dismounted, rage burning in his eyes. You think you're better than us? He snarled. No, Caleb replied. I think you're finished. They circled each other, guns raised. Ethan fired. Caleb dove, rolling behind a rock. He came up fast, aiming straight. The shot rang out. Ethan staggered, dropped his weapon, and collapsed to his knees. It's over, Caleb said. Ethan laughed weakly. You can't erase what we did to her. Caleb stepped closer. No, but I can make sure you never do it again. Ethan fell face first into the dirt. Still, silent. After the smoke clears, the canyon fell quiet again. Caleb dropped to one knee, blood soaking his shirt. His vision blurred. Caleb. Anna ran to him, ignoring everything else. You're alive, she sobbed, holding his face. He smiled faintly. Told you. She pressed her forehead to his. Please don't leave me. He squeezed her hand. I'm still here. But they both knew. The cost had been high. And the future still waited. Where the horizon begins. Spring came slowly to the mountains. Snow melted into silver streams, and the land softened, as if the earth itself was learning to breathe again. Caleb survived. The bullet had missed anything vital, though the fever nearly took him. For days, Anna barely slept, cooling his skin, whispering his name, refusing to let him slip away. Stay, she begged one night, tears dropping onto his chest. I'm right here, he murmured weakly. And he was. A life rebuilt. They never returned to the old cabin. Instead, they settled in a quiet valley far from the trails men used for trouble. Caleb built a new home, stronger, warmer. Anna planted herbs and wildflowers around it, filling the air with color and scent. Sometimes she woke from nightmares. Sometimes Caleb still watched the treeline too closely. But they healed, together. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in gold, Anna stood beside Caleb on the porch. I used to believe survival was enough, she said softly. Now I know it isn't. He turned to her. What is, then? Living, she answered. Choosing joy, choosing love. He took her hand. The promise. Caleb didn't own much, but when he asked her to marry him, he carved a ring from silver taken from Devil's Pass, the place where fear had ended and truth had begun. I can't promise you an easy life, he said. She smiled through tears. I don't want an easy one. I want ours. They married beneath open sky, no church, no crowd, just the land, the wind, and a future finally free. What remains? Years later, travelers would speak of a quiet valley where kindness lived. Of a man who once rode alone and a woman who refused to be broken. Of love that survived violence, loss, and fear, and chose hope anyway. Anna would sometimes stand at the edge of the land, watching the horizon. Not for danger, but for the beauty of what lay ahead. And Caleb would always stand beside her. A powerful Western love story about survival, courage, and the healing power of love. Beaten and left to die, she finds hope in the most unexpected place, through a lone cowboy who risks everything to protect her. Some stories are not just watched, they are felt. Subscribe, and feel every journey with us.